Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're demystifying the old money playbook. We're talking about the precise, very intentional set of rules that keeps family wealth alive across centuries. Think about the stark contrast between new and old wealth for a second. New money is usually stressed, right? They're constantly chasing that next big deal just to maintain a flashy lifestyle. But old money? They operate with this quiet, unshakable confidence. Somewhere right now, everything a family spent decades building is being handed from one generation to the next, and the person receiving it literally has no idea if they're holding a solid foundation or a ticking countdown. So we're going to break down exactly how the ultra-wealthy ensure their legacy actually lasts for over 100 years.
Okay, let's jump right in by looking at the largest wealth transfer in recorded history. Right now, a projected $124 trillion is set to change hands by 2048. And the most massive wave of this transfer is hitting right now, specifically in this narrow window surrounding 2026. This money is arriving on doorsteps in real time. Just to put that into perspective, $124 trillion is a number so staggeringly large it easily exceeds the total gross domestic product of most nations on Earth combined. But here's the catch. Receiving the money is only a tiny fraction of the battle. Keeping it? Well, that's where the real nightmare begins.
The stakes are insanely high for the families on the receiving end of this unprecedented wave of wealth. A comprehensive 20-year study by the Williams Group followed over 3,000 wealthy families and uncovered a genuinely terrifying reality. 70% of these families lose their entire fortune by the second generation. And by the third generation, a staggering 90% have lost it all. The wealth just evaporates. Imagine the emotional devastation of that. A grandparent spends their entire adult life building an absolute empire, sacrificing time, energy, everything, only for their grandchildren to completely squander it and end up right back exactly where the family started.
You know, this phenomenon of vanishing wealth is actually so fiercely common that there's an old proverb for it. Shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. The logic makes sense when you think about it. The first generation rolls up their shirt sleeves, puts in the grueling hard work, and creates the wealth. The second generation, they wear a tailored suit to manage and maintain it. And the third generation goes right back to shirt sleeves, because the money is completely gone. But those 10% of families who actually survive this curse, they don't rely on luck. They survive because they use a strict, private rule book quietly taught at the dinner table. And today, we're opening that book to break down all 9 rules.
Let's start with Pillar 1, the engine of old money, which covers rules 1, 2, and 7.
Rule number 1 is beautifully simple, honestly. Own things that grow and refuse things that rot. New money absolutely loves buying depreciating anchors, the exotic cars, the massive yachts, those endless luxury upgrades that actively sink their net worth just to impress strangers. They're basically paying an image tax to look wealthy. Old money does the exact opposite. They quietly buy compounding assets, think raw land, businesses, index funds, and they stay entirely invisible. They meticulously avoid what we call lifestyle drag, which is that trap where one big, flashy purchase suddenly demands a dozen smaller recurring expenses just to keep it up.
To really grasp the incredible power of Rule 2, staying invisible, let's look at a 25-year wealth comparison. Both Vera and her neighbor earn the exact same $200,000 salary. Vera runs her life quietly. She totally ignores the urge to show off, saves a healthy $50,000 a year, and invests it at a 7% return. Fast forward 25 years, and she is sitting on over $3 million. Her flashy neighbor, on the other hand, pours his money into highly visible signals of success: expensive watches, leased cars, designer clothes. Because of all that overhead, he can only afford to save $10,000 a year. He ends up with just a fraction of Vera's wealth, around $600,000. It just proves that invisibility isn't about being humble. It's a hard, mathematical financial strategy.
Rule 7 takes this engine and just adds jet fuel. It states that you must start the compounding clock the very day a child is born, because time is the one asset you simply cannot buy back. Consider teenage Silas. He invests a mere $7,000 a year from a summer job starting at age 16. He does this for only 7 years. At age 22, he stops completely, doesn't put another dime into that account. Yet, because of the mind-bending reality of compound interest, by the time Silas turns 65, that account crosses $1 million. It just grew quietly in the background for over 4 decades. Old money uses time as a silent partner that literally never sleeps.
So once that engine is humming, you have to protect it. That brings us to Pillar 2, mastering the tax clock, Rules 3, 4, and 8. Rule 3 is all about moving the money while you're still alive to watch it work. Thanks to tax laws made permanent in 2026, there's a $19,000 tax-free gift limit per person per year. So grandparents like Loretta and Harold can use this to quietly funnel tens of thousands of dollars into investment accounts for their heirs
every single year. They can also pay unlimited tuition or medical bills directly to the institutions without triggering a single cent in gift taxes. But, this isn't just a clever tax play. Moving money early lets the older generation act as mentors. It lets them see exactly how their heirs handle smaller amounts of wealth, testing their financial maturity long before that massive, life-altering inheritance ever hits. Old money also heavily relies on Rule 4, letting death reset the tax clock via something called the step-up in basis. While these families are perfectly happy giving away cash while they're alive, they hold on to their most highly appreciated assets, like founding business shares or massive real estate portfolios, with an absolute iron grip until they pass away. Why? Because when the owner dies, the capital gains tax on that specific asset is completely, 100% erased.
Let's break down how wildly powerful this is by looking at Oded stock. She bought this stock decades ago for an original cost of $100,000. Over her lifetime, it exploded in value to $1 million. Now, if Odette decides to sell that stock while she is alive, she owes roughly $180,000 to the government in capital gains taxes. But if she simply holds it until her passing, the basis steps up. Her daughter inherits the stock at the current $1 million valuation with a completely clean slate and exactly zero tax owed. It's entirely legal, and honestly, it's the closest thing we have to a magic trick in the entire tax code.
But this raises an obvious question, right? How do wealthy individuals actually fund their lavish lifestyles if they're never selling those growing assets? Well, they use Rule 8, notoriously known by wealth planners as buy, borrow, die. An investor like Bo refuses to sell the golden goose. Instead, he borrows cash against his massive growing portfolio to live on. Because the IRS does not consider a loan to be taxable income, Bo gets cash in hand without triggering a single taxable event. His underlying assets just keep compounding untouched, growing much faster than the loan's interest rate. Eventually, he passes away, the tax basis steps up, just like we talked about, and the estate effortlessly settles the loan. It is a continuous, highly efficient loop.
All right, we've built the engine and shielded it from the IRS. Now for Pillar 3, building walls and institutions, covering Rules 5 and 9.
Rule 5 dictates that you absolutely must build the walls before you ever fill the house. To old money, handing an unprepared 22-year-old heir a naked check for $10 million is literally like dropping a lit match into a powder keg. Instead, the wealthy use impenetrable structures, most commonly a trust. Think of a trust as a legal fortress with a really deep moat around it. It's a container that holds the assets and only releases funds under strict, specific rules that the family writes in advance. This fortress expertly shields the family wealth from greedy lawsuits, future divorcing spouses, opportunistic creditors, and the impulsive, reckless spending habits of young heirs.
These structures also offer vital protection against massive taxation. By structuring their wealth correctly in 2026, a married couple can utilize the permanent generation-skipping exemption to pass a staggering $30 million directly down to their grandchildren. Without these ironclad structures in place, any estate sitting above the legal limits faces a brutal 40% federal estate tax. An estate could easily lose nearly half its total value overnight, entirely to the government, just for passing the baton to the next generation. A proper container ensures the money actually stays inside the family.
Rule 9 is the mortar that ties these structural walls together. The 10% who actually keep their wealth treat the family like a highly governed institution. This definitely doesn't happen by accident. They hold regular, formal family meetings with clear agendas. They draft a literal family constitution detailing exactly how financial decisions are made and how conflicts are resolved. They hire outside, independent advisors who will challenge them and refuse to just be yes men. And crucially, they actively and frequently retell the family's origin story. This grounds the younger generation. It prevents entitlement by making sure the heirs never ever forget the grit, the struggle, and the long climb it took to build that wealth in the first place.
And that brings us to our final pillar, the ultimate defense mechanism. Pillar 4, raising stewards, not spenders. This is Rule 6.
Listen to this, because it's wild. The biggest threat to generational wealth is not a devastating market crash. It's not a terrible investment choice or a new tax law from Washington. A shocking 85% of generational wealth failures trace back entirely to human error. Specifically, 60% are due to a complete breakdown in family communication and trust, and 25% are due to entirely unprepared heirs. Old money families combat this by spending decades training their children. They purposely let their kids fail safely with small amounts of money when they're teenagers, allowing them to make critical financial mistakes early on, so they build real resilience. By the time the massive wealth finally arrives, those heirs are already thinking exactly like the founders who built it.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I've got a question for you, and I would absolutely love to see your answers in the comments below. Which of these 9 rules did your family actually teach you growing up, and which one are you learning for the very first time today? Because ultimately, shifting your family's trajectory from a short-term payday to a rock-solid 100-year foundation starts entirely with the rules you choose to enforce today. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments.